this, I don't use this to press. It's kind of just relaxed. The point is to be as relaxed here as you
All right.
can with your fingers. Just push out. Of course, I should be using my legs to catch, but as long as the end of the oar touches the water catches it itself. Sherri Cassuto, and I had the privilege of being coached by Frank Cunningham when I first learned how to row. I moved here in '78 and I had never rowed before, and I was entranced with singles when I saw them at the Kings Point Boathouse when I was there to sail.
How old were you?
I was in college. So I was maybe 18. And I saw them and I realized what they were, because I'd never seen one on the water before. And I came out here, and it's a long story, but I'll make it shorter and just say that I was very resourceful. And I didn't know singles existed. I found out the Lake Washington Rowing Club existed. They had no telephone or anything, and I showed up all the time until I finally could join and started out in a wherry. And this was after I was out of graduate school. So Frank was the resource there, and that's how I first started rowing. After I started racing, I realized I was doing pretty well, and I had the additional privilege of being right by the UW and having the national team coach, Ernst, over here. So I got to train with him and all the scullers and sweep rowers he was training, and so I got great training over there.
And this is what year?
I think I went over there in '81. I joined the Lake Washington Rowing Club in the end of maybe '79. So I started rowing over there, and because Frank was really passionate about the Thames Watermen style. He taught it to me as well as a handful of other people here, and really gave me no option but to choose it, because he proved to me again and again on the water that it was the better choice. And when I was a good enough sculler to prove that to myself on the water in alternating races of the two different styles, I did, and I'm convinced that it's a faster rowing style, even though it remains unpopular.
What did you use in the pair? And you raced pair in '85.
Yeah.
And you used the early roll-up, or?
Actually, I don't think my pair partner even knows this, but she does more of a flip catch than a roll-up, and I didn't tell her. I just got to be more comfortable, and I don't know, I can try to dig up a film that I might have of us racing the pair in the final at the Worlds in '85, and you can see that it's really much more of a flip catch than anything else. 500-meter pieces, and I would do, say, 6 for a workout, and I would take into account the speed of the water through the cut, and I would do, say, the first piece, the Thames Watermen style, the second piece, USRA style, third piece, Thames style, fourth piece, US style, and compare the times. Then the next time I did it, I do the US style first, and then the Thames style second, and alternate it that way. And I was a scientist. I proved to myself that it was faster, because I wouldn't commit. It was too big a risk, unless it was faster, but it was faster. Maybe because it's an old style, the Thames Watermen style, it's really fallen out of favor. And there's a tremendous amount of resistance on the upper levels of rowing to rowing this way. And the people who really learned from the old Thames Watermen are gone now. And it has a risk of being lost. This style has a risk of being lost. And so I am thrilled to get the chance to row what I know of it and record it so that it stays around. So I was known as I tried out for the sculling team for using this style, and it was very unpopular in the USRA, and the coaches argued with me about it a lot. They thought I should just stop it. I should get with the program and start using the USRA style, but you know, when you're trying to be the fastest you could possibly be, and you've just proven to yourself that what you're using is faster, you can't go backwards. So the hallmark of this was going out to the trials, to the U.S. singles trials, and I was doing my very ritualized warm-up, and I was getting my oars out to the dock, and one of the national team coaches trotted along beside me and started arguing with me about my rowing style, and said that I couldn't do that. I just couldn't row that way. That what was I out of my mind for doing that? And I looked at them and I said, look, if I'm rowing in my boat, I'll row my way. If I'm rowing in your boat, I'll row your way. I've got to warm up. Can we not talk about this now? So it was a problem. They really didn't like it, but fortunately I had had enough training in the USRA style that if I was rowing in a team boat, I could adapt, because like I said before, the most important thing is that you're doing the same thing in the boat with everyone else. He was saying especially...
Frank
was saying especially that if I was going to row this way, that I could start faster. If you have to start with your blades squared at the start, it's very hard to time the legs and get a really solid drive on the first stroke, because it's precarious. You're perched in an odd position. So what he had me do in those days was equipre partay. So he'd have me sit about 3/4 slide with my blades comfortably out flat on the water. And when they said equipre, remember, you can move as long as the boat doesn't move. If they say equipre, squeeze the blades out so that partay happened with the catch. So it would be like this. And the blades would just bury themselves to the proper depth, and you could drive with all the force you wanted in your legs and get a really good first stroke. He had the second stroke be really, really short and quick so that you keep your momentum going. So it would be for the second stroke. When I started sweep rowing, the style was the East German seaback position, so it was like this, and everyone was approximating that. And as you know, the most important thing in rowing is that everybody does the same thing. But people were getting hurt. There were a lot of back injuries, and most people don't know this, but at the very first Women's National Powerlifting Championships, I got second. So I have a lot of experience with weightlifting. I designed weightlifting programs for universities, and I think that the important lesson that we can learn about rowing style comes as well from weightlifters. The old Thames Watermen style, one of the hallmarks of it, is that the finish is squeezed through with the shoulders, chest up, squeeze through with the shoulders, and you finish tall, and then immediately snap your pelvis behind you with your hands, so it's a finish like this, and you snap yourself out of the bow so that the bow doesn't plow down. It stays high, and you get yourself out to half slide and then slowly continue the rest of the slide to the catch. And It's much stronger and much safer. I don't know of anybody who rows this way that got a back injury from rowing. And I've had this discussion with people time and time again to be relaxed and in a neutral position. But for us, we sit so much, neutral ends up not being neutral. It's like this, it's a slouch. But you never ever see a weightlifter deadlifting in a slouch. They hurt themselves. They all very studiously stick their pelvis out behind them, chest up, look at a point high up the wall, and deadlift from this position, because they know that it's strongest and safest, and they're the ones that have to use the strongest position available because it's all about how much weight they can lift. So I think we can take the lesson from the discipline of weightlifting that there really is no question, but that this is not only a safer body position, but far stronger. Dramatic to see if you keep a good body position in toward the finish, because then your body is still up, your chest is still out. As you're finishing, you're squeezing through with your shoulders. And then to come back, to come out of the bow, is not so dramatic as it would be if I finished collapsed and then did this. It looks far more dramatic. But what you're really looking for in that quick shift, and it's really just a quick shift in the seat, is that you're getting your center of mass from backward of the seat, forward of the seat, after the seat. You don't want the seat really under you. You want your body, your center of mass, sternward of the seat as you're coming up the slide, so that the bow doesn't stay buried.
How's your health these days?
I have stage 4 colon cancer. I was diagnosed with it in the first week of January in 2014, and I was given 6 months to 2 years to live, and it's almost 2 years now. So considering my health is, on paper, my health is terrible, but I feel really good. And in part, I think I feel really good because of a life of exercise and a priority of a life of exercise.
And as I film, you ride your bike to and from the boathouse.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot easier than parking. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Sherri.
Okay. Bye-bye.